Mobile Suit Gundam Wing was a huge success for Sunrise and Bandai, so then it was time to go on to the next installment. This time, Gundam goes apocalyptic with new mobile century, Gundam X, commonly known as Afterwar Gundam X. Interestingly enough, you don't really see a lot of Western fans talk about this one, partly because unlike G Gundam and Wing, which were probably the most iconic Gundam shows overseas at the time, X never really got picked up for an international broadcast, save for a Tagalog dub that aired at some point in the Philippines. In fact, the only Gundam entries Toonami ever picked up were Wing, the original, 8th MS Team, 0080, G, and Char's Counterattack, and eventually Seed, Iron-Blooded Orphans, Unicorn, and The Origin. Though despite its obscurity in the West, Gundam X does have a bit of a following in Japan. Coming back for this one would be director Shinji Takamatsu, art director Masaru Sato, and mech designers Kunio Okawara and Junya Ishigaki, with the addition of writer Hiroyuki Kawasaki of Ranma, Chojin Sentai Jetman, and Sakura Wars, as well as composer Yasuo Higuchi. There is also character designer Nobuyoshi Nishimura of Bottoms, Leisner, City Hunter, Gao Gaigar, and a bunch of other famous works from the 80s, and before Gundam X, he was actually an animation director for Gundam 0083, F91, Victory, G, and Wing. In the future, the 7th Space War between the United Nations Earth Forces and the Space Revolutionary Army ends with catastrophic results. The SRA demands the surrender of the UNEF while threatening to drop multiple colonies onto the Earth. However, as the UNEF denies surrender while deploying numerous mobile suits called Gundams, a battle ensues and unfortunately the colonies are eventually dropped, wiping out approximately 90% of the human population. 15 years later, Garad Ran meets a strange girl named Tifa Adil and finds himself fighting alongside the crew of a vulture ship called the Frieden, led by Captain Jamil Neat, while being the pilot of the Gundam X. What really makes Gundam X stand out for me is the overall concept and world building. As much as I love how Gundam Wing kind of felt like a revisit to the Universal Century, I just adore how Gundam X feels like a pseudo-continuation of it, especially with how such a conflict affected the world. For instance, Jamil's character comes off as a much grown-up version of Amuro who's taken after Bright, being someone who's experienced the horrors of war firsthand and is willing to do everything he can for the future of mankind, even if it means going into battle. This also brings me to my next big praise for Gundam X, and it's that all the characters here feel very human. In G Gundam, yeah, everyone was over the top and exaggerated most of the time, but it perfectly fit the kind of show it was. In Gundam Wing, the core cast was pretty much the Gundam equivalent of an emo boy band, but again, it worked for the kind of series it was. Here, you get a little bit of everything as the characters and their interactions come off as very genuine, especially with the bond between Garad and Tifa. You also have characters like Witso and Roy B. Loy who almost act like big brothers to Garad. And the show also takes time to develop them individually, which results in, honestly, some of the best episodes this franchise has to offer. Also, the Frost brothers are so much fun. I can't help but smile every time they're on screen because they're just rich with charisma, and their motivations are honestly pretty believable and easy to get behind. Plus, they have some of the sickest mobile suits I've seen. The Gundam Versago and Ashtaron really feel like these demented versions of the Gundam that almost look demonic. Going off of that, I really like the more simple design philosophy for the mechs in this show. The Gundam X and later the Gundam Double X is the advanced superweapon to mark mankind's technological prowess. The Gundam Airmaster relies more on flight and agility, and the Gundam Leopard is the heavy weapons type. The grunt suits are also pretty cool looking, as while they're very UC inspired, they remain fresh with how creative some of them look. Aside from that, the voice performances are very good once again with Wataru Takagi, Mika Kanae, Kenyu Horiyuchi, Kazuya Nakai, and Takumi Yamazaki amongst others. The music here is great, as it really fits the tone and atmosphere of the show, and honestly, Gundam X probably has my favorite Gundam openings ever. Both Dreams and Resolution are just bangers no matter how you look at them. Really, the only issue I have with Gundam X is the ending. I'm not gonna spoil what happens, but according to Nobuyoshi Nishimura, contrary to popular belief, the series was not cancelled. During its run, Gundam X kept getting pushed back to later time slots in Japan, which caused producers to step out of the project. So with the production team gradually shrinking, they needed to put together an ending that wasn't rushed and concludes the story with a lot of the writing points they had in mind. And yeah, you can really tell the show got cut short because The show does kind of end, but regardless, it is a serviceable ending. And thankfully, it never ruined my enjoyment for the show and how I viewed it. Honestly, I think Afterwar Gundam X is an underrated classic. It has an engaging story with some of the most interesting world building the franchise has to offer. And of course, you have memorable characters, amazing mobile suit designs, and great music to go with it. It's a huge shame it wasn't picked up by Toonami. I mean, come on, this show is perfect for their catalog. But if you have the time, definitely check out Gundam X. But what about you? Have you seen Afterwar Gundam X? Where does it fall in your Gundam ranking? Feel free to drop a comment below. And I want to give a very special shout out to my channel members and my supporters on Patreon. So if you like what you see, then consider supporting the channel with the link in the description, where for at least $1 you can get access to my Discord server. Other than that, you can also get early access to videos, exclusive content, commissioned video requests, and receive a t-shirt of your choice from my TeePublic. Also want to give a very special shout out to Lotta Fanboy for becoming a new patron. Feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and this is TitanGoji, signing off.